Shut up and sit down.
Welcome once again to the Shite Talk podcast show. I'm your host, Mark Kern, joined as always by Ken Riley.
What's correct?
174th episode, 30 away from our big 204.
Yeah.
And creeping up on it, unannounced to two listeners that had for 40 shows by now planned something big and had done absolutely no preparation for anything big. We should probably just stop talking about 204 and just like casually forget about
it. Have we ever done any preparation, in fairness?
Very little. As our show going forward will actually document quite well for us. We have a jam-packed show. We have so much stories that we even have next week's show nearly covered.
Now something will happen and next week's show will be fucked.
Yeah, until like we go way too quickly through all the stories. And one of the things I was so surprised that we had as many stories because the Capitol Hill riot was like all over news feeds, like that I was checking today. And I was like, we're not going to have any stories because like we try to like anything that's overtly political and talk too much. We try to avoid. We try to like people don't come to us to get like latest news. They get like a man chops off his dick kind of stories. That's what people want from us. So I'm pleasantly surprised we have as many stories.
Yeah, and it didn't take that much research. That's the part that surprised me because I was the same. I was going into this research and going, it's all going to be about this fucking thing. And then I only found one story that I ignored.
Yeah. Yeah, I did mine last minute. So I woke up this morning and I started. So I was like, the pressure is coming down to like 8 o'clock and I was like, I'm not getting my story. I had found my stories, but it just like took me so long, and I was kind of procrastinating in the morning. I was under pressure to like get all my stories done. I was like, okay, I have them. I was like, now I can relax, and then I relaxed probably a little bit too much, and I was like, oh shit, I have to get these typed up, and then my internet started acting up. I was like, this cannot work. But we got there, and now we have 2 days worth of shows. It's kind of like a movie special almost this week.
Yeah.
I guess over the Christmas period, everybody's probably been watching a lot more Netflix, a lot more TV, a lot more series, a lot more movies. And maybe that's influenced the stories that we found on the internet. One is a movie that's been talked about for a long time. And I don't know if do you know when the Flash movie is coming out?
I don't, but if you ask her, do we still have our assistant?
We do.
Assistant to be able to help.
Hey Google, when is the Flash movie due to release?
On the website screenrun.com, they say, now Warner Brothers has announced The Flash has yet another release date, this time set for November 4th, 2022. Do you want a little more context?
No. So, yeah, 2022, November 22, it's nearly a year away. It was over a year away.
There we go.
Yeah, so it's like over a year away is this Flash movie, and it's been talked about for at least 2 years at this stage. It's been nearly 2 years, and there's been more and more hints and kind of names dropped that might be in the movie, and it's meant to go back through the DC movie archives as such, so the old Batman movies, possibly the old Superman movies. It'd be really interesting to see what they do with the movie and how they pull it off. So we were talking about that. We've a little bit more news of people who might be in it. Then we're moving on to something completely different because scientists, and in terms of who I go to in order to determine what I want to watch, it's definitely scientists. Like anytime I'm looking at a TV show, I go, I wonder what scientists would recommend for me. And lucky enough, I don't have to wonder because they've done the legwork, and the scientists of this world have determined what is the scariest movie of all time. We no longer need to argue amongst ourselves over which movie we think is the scariest. We have scientific proof which movie is the scariest of all time. And they're like, okay, it was a very small sample size, and you could poke holes in the study till the cows come home. However, it did pump up some interesting results in their research, in their findings over this small study. So it's kind of interesting to be talking about that. I try to avoid Capitol Hill, but I couldn't avoid this story because it is very snowflakey, and generally something like really right wing isn't snowflakey. So that contrast of being really, really snowflakey and it become from a Donald Trump supporter, it's just it's a combination that I could not hide from. I had to talk about it. So it's about one of the people arrested from the riots went on a hunger strike for a very, very weird reason. So we're talking about that, and then we have Idiots of the Week, and there's a lot of swingers in our Idiots of the Week. Generally, when we talk about some weird sexually things, it's generally me that brings it up. If we're honest with each other, Ken, between us, it's generally me. But this is all of our weird swingers stories have come via Ken this week.
Yeah.
So you know what that is a return of.
Ken's sex stories.
Ken's sex stories. The segment that never got off the ground.
I'm surprised Idiots of the Week has lasted this long.
Yeah, it's the only thing we've really ever stuck to in our lives, really. We haven't even been able to get a show out on a Thursday every week. It has outlasted our ability to get the show out on time. Idiots of the Week.
That's some achievement.
So the return of Ken's sex stories. So jam-packed show, lot to get through, lot to talk about. Strap yourself in, sit down and shut up, as the intro says, because we're just about to get into it. Ken, should we start talking about the Flash movie?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, it's a good place to start.
It's a good place to start. It's up at the top. In terms of DC characters, Flash would be up there. Flash would be probably number 2 to Batman in my favorite superheroes. It probably goes Batman to Flash. So I have very, very high expectations, and I think one of the biggest Flash stories, if you are a Flash fan, is Flashpoint. Flash has done this. He's done. There's been a few iterations of Flashpoint now at this stage. They've remade this story before, but for people who aren't a DC fan, what Flashpoint is Flash goes back in time and he alters reality without knowing it. So basically, wakes up and it's Bizarro world. It's everything's different. In one version, Superman was captured by the CIA and imprisoned as an alien and hid away from everybody else. So he's just this frail boy that doesn't know he has superpowers, and only person who really knows, other than the US government, about Superman is Flash, because he came from the alternate world. And then Aquaman and the Atlanteans and what's Wonder Woman? I can't speak today. Themyscirians people are at war. I think Lois Lane is in the military, and it's a really cool series. And there's the other. So for a Flashpoint movie to be made, I am so fanboying over. But I'm also thinking this is going to be a giant load of crap, as well.
So you're thinking you're hedging your bets.
I'm hedging my bets. I'm there's a little boy in me that says, yes, I can't believe they're making this. And then because I've seen, did you follow the TV series of Arrow and Flash?
No, because I don't really like either of them.
All right. Well,
Like
Well,
I watched a couple of episodes of Flash, and I was like, "Oh man, fuck off."
yeah, no, like when Arrow first came out, it was really dark. It was um, basically they couldn't afford the rights to Batman TV show, US network that like bought the rights to Arrow. So instead of because they couldn't do a Batman series, they did an Arrow series. So they basically had Arrow as Batman, and they just called it Arrow. And it was kind of dark, and like some people criticized it that it was very clearly a show that where they wanted to do Batman but they couldn't. And over the series' time, it came very more political correct, very more lighter, and kind of blended into like what, because Flash was so popular, got a lot more popular than the Arrow. It like basically all the shows morphed into being the Flash TV series. They all started looking like each other, and they all came this like really wishy-washy crap bunch of shows. So it came up to like, I think, the finale of Arrow, and they wanted to go out with a bang, so they decided to do Flashpoint or a multiverse, and it was just the worst thing. You got a load of Supermen, like the original Superman. What's his name? Christopher Reeves.
Yeah.
Or no, which was the not Christopher Reeves was in a wheelchair.
Yeah, Christopher Reeves in a wheelchair.
Yeah, no, which is the one that did the TV show? You know, the Adventures of Lois.
Oh, King Kane.
Yeah, they got King Kane in back. They got your man from Smallville. And they were trying to get the guy that played Lex Luthor, but couldn't. And then they got a few kind of like, they already had the original Flash from the from the movie, or from the like back in the 80s. He'd already regularly appeared as an older Flash, and they had a few other people, and they had like, because once again they couldn't afford rights to Batman, or DC wouldn't give them rights to Batman. They had to do Batwoman, which pissed off a lot of people. And yeah, like this show was just, it was so badly done that I just don't have any good expectations for this like new Flashpoint movie.
But the TV series has just ruined you, Mark.
Yeah, now like, look at, if it's like the Joker, if they can take back up off where the Joker is, and like generally, like if you look Batman versus Superman, I thought it was all right. I thought it was like, it got.
Yeah, I actually liked Batman vs Superman. I don't know why that gets so much shit.
Yeah, well, people shit all over Batman versus Superman. And like, I thought there was definitely other movies, like Justice League was worse than Wonder Woman was worse than it. There's a lot more movies that they produced after that wasn't as good as Batman versus Superman. So like, I wouldn't even mind a Batman versus Superman styled Flashpoint, but yeah. Like, I don't know. You don't know what DC are going to do because they're so unsure about themselves. You get so much criticism anytime a movie comes out that features one of their prominent characters that they suffer from a like, what's that word? Insecurity complex. They're so interested, you don't know what they're going to do. Like, they could bring out a Joker movie, which is amazing, or they could go down the line of Wonder Woman or Suicide Squad, where the movie is just like, it doesn't know what it wants to be.
I didn't really mind Wonder Woman too much, though.
Yeah, I just thought like, I didn't like it. Like, I thought like, and it got so much praise as well. Or you know, another movie that like got a lot of praise that was shit.
What?
Aquaman.
I didn't see Aquaman.
And Aquaman, whatever you want to call it, like. They got praise, so you wonder if to go towards praise, if you go towards the Wonder Woman, if you go towards if they go towards the Aquaman series, or even Shazam. Shazam was all right. I didn't mind Shazam, but yeah, like I just wonder what they're gonna do with it. So I'm not too sure. You've news about people that might be in it though.
Yeah, it's obviously they must be thinking about like, you know, Flashpoint and a multiverse kind of thing, because Ben Affleck is going to be in it as Batman.
Yeah.
But you've also got Michael Keaton that's going to be in it as Batman, and there's talk of Danny DeVito being in it as the Penguin.
Yeah, I'd like to see if they bring back Arnold Schwarzenegger as Dr. Freeze.
That would be epic.
Yeah, it's too bad all the people from the Adam West series are dead.
They're not all dead.
I know the multiverse for the Flash show, DC TV series, had, I think, the Robin from Adam West's Batman.
Burt Ward.
Yeah, I think he was in it at some point. He did something in it.
Yeah, like, it'd be cool to kind of see some of them guys back.
Yeah, it would, like, for a big screen experience. Obviously, like, this show was limited by it being a TV show and not a movie, and DC are going to be the ones like doing the production of this, so they're not going to be restrained by having to get licenses for like likes of Batman, and they're going to have all that already.
Yeah, all that covered.
And like they own all their movies, so they can go back to as long as they've been making content and bring people in. I wonder, are they going to bring any of the TV show people in?
I don't know. That's all that I've seen about it is that obviously they're going to have Michael Keaton and they're bringing back Danny DeVito.
Yeah, because I know hey Google, who's the actor who's going to play the Flash in the Flash movie?
According to Wikipedia.org, Miller is set to play the character in the standalone film The Flash, which is set to be released in 2022. Do you want a little more context?
No. Yeah, so he just gave him Miller. What's his first name?
It's Miller. It's just Miller.
It's just Miller. So Miller is going to play the Flash. I know he's appeared on the TV show as the Flash during the crossovers. So in the kind of DC,
Ezra Miller
Miller has appeared on the TV show. So in the movie DC universe thing, the TV world and the movie world are linked through the multiverse kind of content. I know it's really interesting while we're talking about this. When we were doing our story hunt, I kind of like went past it. I didn't want to talk too much about space. Start of the year.
Here we go, fucking space again.
Yeah, but like scientists think one of the ways of explaining dark matter is through a multiverse. So the theory of there being, like, I think Stephen Hawking has like talked about the possibility of being a multiverse, of you being in the same situation but a slightly different, because, like, you know, the kind of butterfly effect, like just one small change could have a deeper context. So like every choice that you made in your day, let's say, that happened slightly differently in a different world, which had a different outcome to what you did. And this happens an infinity amount of times. So, and that's the idea of a multiverse, is this, like, right now there mightn't even be Mark and Ken sitting talking shite on it might be something else. Like I could be talking about like tennis, because of like a small inkling when I did it as a child. I decided to play tennis instead of like skateboarding or like something like that. Or like you could like have slipped and be paralyzed, or like as a kid or whatever. Something small happened in your life. Maybe like you almost got hit by a car. So like in a multiverse, you got hit by that car, you died, or you managed to survive, or blah blah blah. And like that happens an infinity amount of times. So that's the scientists actually think that might be the reason of dark matter, which is kind of cool. Ken's like, is it?
Okay.
whatever you're into, Mark. I was like, do you ever think about that? Like the idea of it being another you, just doing something slightly different, or how a small change in your life, something that was so insignificant, and you think back over it and said, oh, if I didn't do that, well, then I wouldn't have done that, and I wouldn't have like I wouldn't have done that. Like I wouldn't be where I am today, or I wouldn't be doing that because of like that one small change.
Yeah, but like, isn't like everything in your life happens because of whatever you did before?
Yeah, exactly. So like it's a really interesting like notion to like have that there's the possibility of a multiverse. There's people who make slightly different change. There's you just making a slightly different change. It seems sometimes science fiction rather than like scientists would actually like like thinking about it might be a thing. Like they're that kind of 4D. I think it was Interstellar kind of like tipped on it. Like was talking something about it in their movie. Have you ever watched that? Probably didn't.
No, never watched Interstellar.
Yeah. But yeah, it could be a way of like reviving the DC universe, because you know how people were critical of the DC universe.
Like, I think people are unfairly critical of DC. Like, I think we talked about this before. I know people who like will criticize DC movies for the same reasons that they'll tell you that the current Marvel movie is the best thing ever.
Yeah, and I also think it was being unfairly criticized as well. I think some of his criticism later on came out about like, so they decided to go down a darker road, and people started giving out about that wasn't a Marvel movie, but then they started changing it more like Marvel did. Like all their suits got a tone lighter, and like they started to throw jokes into their movies and started to have like popular songs on their soundtracks, and then people are like, "Oh Jesus, this is like Marvel movies. This is so badly done." Ugh. And so like I just think they should have stuck to their lane. If they said that we're gonna do slightly older, grittier movies, and like, okay, you can bring your kids to Marvel, we're gonna do movies that we know our older generation fans are gonna watch.
Yeah, like, because I think it's definitely like people are just DC use too much CGI, but then Marvel do it and it's great.
Yeah, well, yeah, DC do like their CGI is really bad though, whereas Marvel's is pretty good. Like Marvel's CGI is far better than DC's CGI.
Yeah, but still, like, fuck off.
Like if you look at the Joker though, that was a very low budget, very low CGI. I don't think they use CGI in that movie, and it was amazing. So like if they are going to take movies like, oh, how are we going to rewrite this universe? Please go to Joker route. Please make everything like really dark, gritty, and like raises questions about society, like the Joker movie did. But obviously,
like, Joker was great.
Yeah, but Joker was kind of its own thing. It was something that was different to Batman. Like it would be I think one of the big problems they could do is make all their movies the same. Like Marvel movies are like fast food, like a McDonald's. Like when you're eating it tastes great, and you like no matter where you eat McDonald's, it tastes the same no matter where you are in the world, and you know what you're getting.
I think that's why Marvel are so successful.
Yeah,
because their movies are like
fast food.
They're like fucking flat pack. Assemble yourself. Here you go.
Yeah, so like I think what DC could do with like the multiverse and just change forever is just make like, okay, Flash can be a comedy, then like you have Wonder Woman, that can be a love story, or that can be a rom-com, or you can have Batman being really, really dark and gritty, about crime and murder, and like society, raises questions about society. And then you could have Superman as your poster boy action movie, that like way they are written in comic books. So all the movies are completely different individually, and then every now and again the worlds collide and they have like a Justice League movie that brings elements of all the movies together. But like having all the movies just look the same, I think would be a huge mistake if you're the DC, because people are gonna be like, all the movies are just like Marvel, or they're just all the same. Even I think if you make a really dark and gritty Wonder Woman movie, you'd be like, what is this? Like if the Joker if Wonder Woman was like the Joker, you'd be like, this isn't Wonder Woman. But like even shows like, have you watched Titans?
No, not yet. Like I keep meaning to watch it, and then I just forget about it, and then somebody brings it up again, and I remember it.
Yeah, like once again, it's made for an adult audience, and like they change the characters, but they change in a way you're like, oh my god, this is what this character needed. You know, like they're like, this makes this so much more. This like Hawk and Dove, for instance, in that series, you're like, I can get behind this Hawk and Dove. I'm like, I couldn't really follow this incest relationship that Hawk and Dove had back in the early '90s when they appeared on TV. You're like, are they together or are they brother and sister? But like, like this one where like they're like injecting steroids into each other and like they're like washed up superheroes is like, yes, I can get behind this.
Have you watched The Boys?
Yeah, I just finished it.
I'm on episode 3. Like that's pretty good.
That is really good. Yeah, that once again, like that series is set around like basically DC, so like the superheroes in that are basically the Justice League, and apparently they're going to bring out a new series where it's going to have Marvel characters in it, and they're going to have like DC versus Marvel fight off in the series. It's going to culminate with like DC superheroes, which is our what are they called? The group. Anyway, the regular superheroes are gonna.
Oh, the 7, aren't they?
Yeah, the 7 are gonna fight whatever the Marvel ones are, and yeah, it's like that's gonna happen in the new series. So like, yeah, that's gonna be really interesting. But I kind of like how much they just poke fun of it, and they flip the script in terms of it's a movie that looks from the villain's point of view as superheroes, and then it also kind of makes them look out to be the heroes. So yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's really good.
We should move on from superheroes and move on to scary movies. I thought this is your wheelhouse when it comes to, because you strike me as a person that really likes horror movies. I could take it or leave it. I think I've said it before. The scariest movie I've ever seen was Edward Scissorhands. So I'm probably not the best judge on what is a scary movie. But like, what is your scariest movie? What's the movie you'd put as the scariest movie you've ever watched?
See, I like older movies. Like, if you're watching modern movies, the most modern movie that I really liked was The Conjuring.
Yeah, what's The Conjuring
I really
about?
liked that movie. Fucking demonic possession and all this shite.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
That's a really good movie. But I like really old movies. Like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre still kind of scares me because all the violence in it is implied violence.
Yeah, so your mind fills in the gaps.
Yeah. So you imagine the scariest thing that you can think of in that situation. And that's far scarier than, say, like Saw or fucking Hostel or...
Yeah, like, in terms of, like, Saw movies, I wasn't really scared of Saw movies. I was just more grossed out. I think there's horror and then there's gore movies. It's like there's a subcategory where it's just really graphic. And you're like, well, this is not scary. This is just, like, I don't want to see a person's, like, eye, like, stabbed with a nail. Like, I don't want to see that happen, like, for 3 minutes. That's far too long for that fucking thing to happen.
Like, I like the Saw movies, but I like them for the storyline behind them. If you follow the storyline as opposed to just the pointless gore.
Yeah.
It's actually got a pretty interesting storyline.
Yeah. I often hear like Saw fans try to justify the like violence with, oh yeah, you have to look past that. And you're like, it's kind of hard. But like, I don't know. For in terms of the my like probably horror that like probably scare me the most, it's probably like I think it's always going to be the ones that you see when you're younger, rather than. So, like, when I was growing up, I think it was The Ring. I remember The Ring used to scare the fucking living daylives out of me.
Alien is mine.
Yeah. And, like, I don't think I could have watched The Ring on my own in a dark room. Like, I'd have to have somebody in the room when it was on. Or another one was the Blair Witch Project. So like
Blair Witch was good because like everybody thought that shit was real.
yeah, exactly. And anything that could make you feel like it was real, especially if you lived beside a woods. Like I remember after the Blair Witch, my uncle slept with the light on with his dog beside him because he was that scared of the Blair Witch movie.
Like I remember the first time I watched the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I watched it with my dad,
Yeah,
and like obviously he had been like a teenager in his early 20s when the movie was first released.
yeah.
And like he was telling me, like this is a real movie. This is like this really happened. This has like there's actual footage in this movie that was shot by the people that were killed. And I was like, nah, you're like that's all nonsense. Like that's stuff that they used to promote the movie in the 70s. None of it was real. And he was like, no, I'm telling you. There's interviews with people, like there's interviews with cops. This thing is real. I was like, no, it's not. Like,
Was that like Texas Chainsaw Massacre? That was the one where your man wore the people's skin.
yeah, it's like kind of based on Ed Gein.
Yeah, because he had a mother obsession, and he used to keep his mother's house like in pristine condition, but the rest of the house was and they think his first victim was like his brother.
Yeah, and he used to like go to the local graveyard and he used to find recently buried women and dig them up and skin them and wear their skin and stuff.
Yeah, like it's it was like I think anything that's like based on a slight truth does actually generally scare you more. Like even was Scream based on a real life serial killer?
No, I don't think so.
All right, fair enough. I'm recently watching. There's this TV series on Netflix called Scream.
Oh, it's shite.
It's so bad, but like I'm now going to start season 2 today.
Like I watched 2 episodes and I was like, absolutely fuck this in the ass.
I watched 2 episodes. I watched the full series, but I was about 3 episodes in, and I was like, this is really. I think I must have been tired when I first started it, and I was like, I watched it the next day, and I was like, this is really, really shit. This is like so cheesy and corny. But they'd already hooked me. I was like, I just want to know who the killer is at this age. So I watched the rest of the series. I just wanted to get to the end of this just so I can know who the killer is. I got to the end of it, and then this was like, wait. There's another episode. There's season 2. Oh, and I'm kind of like, oh, it might get better. So I'm gonna check out season 2 of Scream.
Yeah, it was so bad.
It's awful, but anyway, scientists might be able to figure out a way of taking out us ever having to wonder if a scary movie is in fact scary or worth watching, and this is all thanks to a broadband choice provider who's decided to turn their hand to comparing movies, particularly horror movies, instead of broadband. And basically, what they decided to do is do a scientific study, and I say scientific like in quotation marks, it's not really. And what they did is they got 50 people, a variety of age groups, made them watch 100 hours of scary movies and monitored their heart rate to see, on average, which movie made their heart rate rise the most.
Did they have to watch 100 hours like were they watching one movie a day, or were they watching like multiple movies a day?
I imagine like if they wanted to get the study done, like obviously you have to pay participants for using them. So generally what they do is try to get this study done in a short amount of time. So I imagine that they're maybe watching 3 or 4 movies a day. They didn't go into too much of what they did in order to do it. All they did basically said was they wanted to make a top 35 scariest movies of all time, and they're going to track it by people's heart rates and see how much they did. They narrowed down the list of, okay, what there's loads of horror movies. How do we find the most scariest ones? So they got the 50th highest rated horror movies according to IMDb and Rotten Tomato and Reddit. So calculated all the scores on these various different movie sites and got the average of which movies are rated the best horror movies of all time. So once they had the top 50, then they obviously just made the participants watch all 50 of these movies. And then after they watch they just seen which ones rose their heart rate the most. Now, they did point out the fact that it was a very small sample size, and the fact that like obviously this like it's gonna vary on person to person, but they've produced some interesting kind of results with their small sample size. Like, for instance, you said you prefer older horror movies, and
Yeah.
I thought like the ones that are obviously going to stick in your mind being the scariest are probably ones that you watch when you were younger. So when you first started watching horror movies, I said like so The Ring was scary, or like what's the other one? One where they follow people in the forest.
Blair Witch.
Yeah. I thought those two movies were like, because obviously I watched them as a kid. I'm pretty sure if I watched Blair Witch now, I'd be like, this is so badly done. Like, I hate shaky camera like movies. Like, oh, I'm so startled. It's just like, okay, it's like, focus the camera.
Everybody just chill the fuck out.
Yes, focus the camera. I was kind of thinking about this before we went on air, and I was kind of like, well, if you watch something like The Shining or Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and let's say, because this it's 50 people, so I'd imagine that probably 90% of people who watch the Texas have seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre at least once, and like, the first time you watch any scary movie, it's the scared of it you'll be. And obviously a good horror movie will scare you every time. But you're not going to be as scared as the first time. The first time is always going to be the scariest. So like,
even if they're monitoring your heart rate though, then the second or third or fourth or fifth or sixth time would be the scariest. Monitoring your heart rate, because you're going to expect the part that scared you the most. You're going to be like, oh shit, it's coming up, it's coming up, it's coming up.
would you like if like someone at the same time jumped out behind the door? The first time I scare you. The first few times I scare you. After a while, you're like, okay, he's gonna jump out the door at me at like 4:00. Be like, hi, Bill. Like, you know, like you'll expect it. You'll expect it, like the fright. Same with like The Shining or Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like, you'll know all the scary parts that are coming up in it. Unless it really scares you still. I was wondering, but like, if you haven't seen a modern horror movie, like, horror movies have kind of, like, excuse the pun, died a bit of a death. Like, they're not as popular as they were maybe 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So I'm just wondering, like, out of this 50 sample size, how many, like, the modern movies, how much of the people in that sample size haven't seen that horror movie, and where was that causing their heart rate to rise because they weren't expecting, didn't know when the scare was coming.
Maybe.
Yeah, because it's kind of weird, because I don't think horror movies, other than special effects, have probably got a lot better over the years, and other kind of like ways of like shooting horror movies has probably got better. But in terms of storyline, I think most people prefer the classics.
Yeah, definitely. The older the movie, generally, like, especially scary movies. Like, scary movies are better older because they don't use all this shitty CGI.
Yeah, exactly. And they don't have to rely on the only thing is like blood or puke or something like that. You kind of like, it looks a lot worse now then than it did maybe now.
And then, like, some movies you've got stuff where they like actually did things. Like, have you ever seen Evil Dead?
No, that's the one with your man Kane the wrestler, isn't it?
No, that's See No Evil.
All right.
Evil Dead, like, he chops off his hand and he replaces it with a chainsaw. But like, there's a scene in it where there's a snake in their cabin, and obviously special effects, they couldn't fucking fake it, so they actually got a snake and they like slaughtered this fucking snake on camera.
Oh shit!
like because they didn't have the special effects technology to fake it. Now looking at it now, it doesn't look real because you're used to watching CGI ones where the fucking thing explodes and there's all sorts of shit going on. But like that's extreme.
No, it really pisses me off. You know when TV series or movies add special effects into things that like we all know don't make sounds. Like that Scream series. They put an SD card into a laptop and they had to take it out quickly. And like every single one of us who's ever used the SD card just knows to just make any sort of a sound or just like a little clicky sound. They made like this computer generated like and you're like we know it doesn't make that sound.
I was watching I can't remember what it was. I was watching a movie the other day. And like it's recent enough, like it's it's in the age of smartphones, and somebody's phone rang and it did the old Nokia 3210 ringtone.
we all know that doesn't make that sound anymore. Yeah, it's weird how they add weird sound effects into things that we know they don't exist. Can you take a guess of what was the scariest movie of all time?
Is it surprising?
Is it surprising?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
Is it shite?
No, like in terms of it's a modern horror movie.
It's a modern movie.
Yeah, it's a modern horror movie. Like in terms of modern horror movies, well, 2012. But like it was an alright horror movie in terms of like modern ones. Like I thought it was pretty good.
It's in 2012. It wasn't one of the Paranormal Activities, was it?
No, they're awful. It was Sinister.
Sinister?
Yeah, it's a thriller starring Ethan Hawkins. Ethan Hawke. He plays a true crime writer who investigates strange, grisly families who are murdered. And basically, there's like one of those investigators goes around like investigating on these weird shit, and then kind of
one of these investigators who goes off investigating.
Well, in like murders or like investigators who go off and murders or like paranormal things, and then it's getting like fucking neck deep in something shit, and yeah, it's kind of like this creepy, jumpy movie. So the average heart rate, resting heart rate, was about 65 beats per minute. In Sinister, it rose to 86 beats per minute was the average resting heart rate, a 32% increase on the average, which was the highest rise of heart rate of any other movie. The study and people who participated in it. So scientifically, what they're saying is the scariest movie is Sinister. Have you ever seen it? I take it you haven't because you didn't really know what it was.
I haven't seen it, but I haven't seen it because I just thought the ad looked shit.
All right. So now your homework for this week is to go watch Sinister, since you're our horror expert, and see if it was. But yeah, it was kind of interesting that modern movies apparently make us scarier than older classics, which even though most people would agree that their classics are better, and that Sinister, a movie that very few people I'd say have seen, is the scariest movie of all time.
Like yeah.
Yeah.
I can't really find anything with Ethan Hawke like overly
good,
exciting.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was interesting enough for just kind of a casual story to bring on. And it kind of made more sense when I found out that you had a movie story, and this is turned into a movie series. And we were trying to avoid the Capitol Hill riots, but it's probably inevitable that we had to talk about at some point. And the FBI have went around and arrested a few of the people who were involved in the riots. And one of the guys, probably the most memorable guy of the riots, was the guy with the Viking hat on. He was topless. He had this like Thor like hammer tattooed on it. He was like 6 foot tall. He was walking around with his top off. He looked like something out of a movie. He looked like something you'd see as like a villain in a Marvel movie. He looked kind of like he was holding at one point an American flag. He was like sitting on top of like where all the speakers sit, and like he looked the most memorable person of the group. He looked very hardcore, badass kind of a person, which makes our next story very, very kind of odd. So he gets arrested, and he decides to go on a hunger strike and refuses to eat. So you're kind of like, oh, okay, why is he going on a hunger strike? Is it because he thought the election was rigged? No. Well, does he think he was arrested unjustly and he's protesting by not eating food? No. You're like, okay, does he think he's like a prisoner of war and wants to be tried as such? And you're like, no, he doesn't. He's not eating his food because it isn't organic, Ken.
As you do.
Yeah, your man's name is Jacob Chansley, and he basically is used to a very strict, and I was meant to Google what this is, shaman organic diet. And I was meant to go, hey Google, what is a shaman organic diet consist of?
Sorry, I didn't understand.
What is a shaman diet?
Sorry, I don't understand. But I found something similar. Do you want to know what a shaman wears?
Sure.
On the website Britannica.com, they say, a shaman wears regalia, some part of which usually imitates an animal, most often a deer, a bird, or a bear. It may include a headdress made of antlers or a band into which feathers of birds have been pierced. The footwear is also symbolic, iron deer hooves.
Okay, that's enough.
Or bear's paws.
Hey Google, what does the shaman eat?
Sorry, I didn't understand.
Okay, so apparently if I Googled what a shaman ate, I probably wouldn't got anything of use, other than now we know what he was dressed was of a shaman and not a Viking, as people were pointing out on the internet. And so he had this shaman rich organic diet, and he's used to it, and he wasn't being fed. So he refused to eat, and this went on long enough that his solicitor brought it to the court's attention, and the court ruled in favour of Jacob and ordered the state to provide him with organic food so that he wouldn't die of starvation. One of his defense witnesses was his mother, Ken.
So he got Mammy to go to court for him.
He got Mammy to go to court and argue on his behalf that he needs, in order to have his organic diet, or else he'll get very, very sick. I just think it just seems so odd. It seems such a woke story. Like, I'm not eating this. Like, are kids hugged too much that like they're this after? Like, did they just expect organic food when they go to fucking prison?
Yeah, like
I always say, would this happen in Russia?
Right. The whole purpose of sending a cunt to prison is that you take away, it's a punishment. You take away their rights. So, fuck you. You eat whatever you're given, you cunt.
Yeah, exactly. If you're not going to eat, fair enough. You'll die of starvation. That'll be your choice. I know that's a very kind of what was your one who was Prime Minister of England? Margaret Thatcher. A very Margaret Thatcher way of looking at a situation. This lady is not for turning. But basically, I don't eventually he'll eat. That's what I'd say. Unless he wants to die of starvation. He'll lose all his abs and must. You go, oh, but if you don't eat that, you lose your fucking gains. And
But he didn't grow up in an Irish household where he was told.
Yeah.
Fucking eat it or
like,
die.
I
I don't care.
like if he had an Irish mother, right, and he rang his mom and said, "Would you tell the courts to, like get me better food?" She said, "You'll eat that fucking food, and you'll be happy with the food. All right, you don't be giving any grief. You're already in enough trouble." And she wouldn't be going to the court saying, "Oh, you have to feed my child better." He'd be like, "Give me 5 minutes with him. I'll have him eating that food." It's what he'd be told. And basically, he actually turned himself into the FBI because he basically believes he did nothing wrong. And he was confident that he'd be released because he had truth and God on his side. Apparently, God is a very shit character witness, and he's now in prison. He said the protest was because he was a patriot and is what his founding fathers would have done. I wonder if his founding fathers would also criticize the food menu in prison.
Yeah, they would have only been looking for organic food.
Organic, freshly grown, like where is my wheatgrass shot? I cannot get up in the mornings without my wheatgrass shot.
Everybody knew Benjamin Franklin was a demon for fucking wheatgrass.
Yeah, exactly. I don't care if this is a prison. It's not a concentration camp. Can I get a bit of wheatgrass here?
Like, what the fuck is wrong with that, lad?
Oh, like some people are like the notions that like, oh, this food is really bad. Yes, you're in prison. Of course, it's really bad.
It's supposed to be really bad.
Yeah, it's like when I heard like some like prisons have Sky, and it's like, why do they have Sky?
Yeah.
We want a sports channel, or else we'll go on hunger strike. Yeah, so I'm surprised that didn't make it onto our idiots of the week. But
it could have.
It probably could have, but it's now time for our idiots of the week. And this is part of the show for idiots, by idiots, and usually contains people doing dumb things. And that's why I gave it the title, Idiots of the week. But this is also, coincidentally, the return of Ken's sex stories. So I'll probably start with first. Like, it is most places around the world at this stage, other than like select few countries that closed off their borders and impose harsh restrictions of movement, are experience high numbers of infection rates. So most people are still in lockdowns. Most people are told not to have mass gatherings, don't lick people's faces. England has banned sex. So many weird things have been.
That's such a weird thing to even like consider.
Yeah, it's just like, all right, don't have sex unless you're married or living with the person. So if you're not living with the person, you're not meant to be hooking up with random strangers in England. That's banned. Casual sex is banned. You have to be living with the person basically. I think they had guidelines around having sex with people, like wear a face mask or keep distance.
Wear a face mask.
Yes. Only take it off for oral sex and then put it back on. But basically, which makes like our next stories like kind of weird, because swingers have ignored basically guidelines of US government and other countries' restrictions by having swinger parties. And you have a story around a cop who was trying to break up a swingers party and kind of got himself caught up in the middle of it.
Yeah, so in Argentina, there was this is I would imagine a pretty big swingers party. So there was an event at a farm, and there was 20 couples there, and somebody obviously reported it, or cops found out about it at some stage, because the cops arrived at about 10 p.m. to break it up, and basically people just thought that they were part of the show and that they were strippers, and they started like dancing at them, and some woman whispered into the cop's ear saying, "Look at your eyes, you warm me," and start like rubbing against them. And like they got the organizers got arrested or whatever.
But like, yeah, I imagine so. But like, imagine if that situation happened, if like the genders were revealed. Imagine a man said that to a female cop. What would happen? Be arrested
You'd just be getting like fucking bear maced.
bear mace. He'd have what you call their sticks.
A fucking nightstick.
Yeah, he'd have that on somewhere where the sun doesn't shine, or even the moon if it's called a nightstick. But like, yeah, this is like, what did the cops do to like make it look like it was a strip? Were they walking around the party going, okay, I just want to make sure everybody's socially distanced, and if people are socially distanced, then I'll let this thing like go ahead. Like, surely there was a knock on the door. Cops came in and said, "What are you all doing? You're breaking restrictions. Get the fuck out of here." To the point where like a person was able to come up to like a cop and be like, "What did they say?"
Look at your eyes. You make me warm.
Look at your eyes. You make me like. How did the cop be now? Like, you realize I'm here to break up this party, and I'm going to arrest the person who like set it up.
The cop that was involved in it said that all the people involved were extremely respectful. They did not resist, and we had a joke about what happened.
They were very respectful, and they didn't resist. Of course, they didn't resist. Oh,
Yeah.
you want to put me in cuffs? Fair enough.
And then he said people didn't know what was going on. One of them, realizing we weren't strippers, told us, "Oh, we were just excited. It was comical and absurd, and it's not the first time this has happened."
It's not the first time. How many times are cops mistaken as strippers in Argentina?
What the fuck do cops in Argentina wear that they keep getting mistaken for strippers?
Removable pants, just in case they have to jump into rivers, of course. Like, that's what these quick pull-off pants are for. They all have like greasy mustaches and have their hair slicked back. Like it could be like they could be strippers. They're all in incredibly good shape.
Imagine, like, so in Argentina, people are going, that's either a cop
or a
stripper.
that is a dangerous line to toe. Like, if you can't tell, like, you'll get yourself either into a lot of trouble or you'll have like a really good time if you have like a load of like loose notes. I wonder if the cops ever just went with it, be like, "Ah, fuck it, let's make a bit of money.
let's just go with it." Yeah.
Yes, we're strippers.
And then the real stripper shows up.
Yeah.
Wait, if you're the stripper, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah.
That's
Like,
it, you're all under arrest.
Surely the organisers said, "I never ordered a stripper," or maybe they're like, "Oh, we surprised you. Oh wait, it's a cop."
Maybe with 20 couples, nobody, like, everybody just assumed, oh, somebody's after getting a stripper.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe this is somebody's husband.
Yeah.
Like if there was a male and female cop, they could be like, "Oh, they're a couple that came dressed role playing." And then you have another story. Like, so this is not even the first time this week this happened. I'm going to just presume that both these stories happened this week.
Yeah, they were both published within the last week, so I'm assuming they both happened this week.
So the both stories happened this week. They all happened during, like I said, lockdown periods. And like the next one happened in America.
Yeah, so in America, obviously, America is pretty bad with like coronavirus at the minute. But this couple decided to have a swingers party, and so they had a party. 250 people showed up. It was called a Naughty in New Orleans swingers gathering in New Orleans. Naughty in New Orleans.
Naughty in New Orleans.
Yeah, because that's the people from New Orleans always say that they're from New Orleans.
No, right, fair enough.
So 250 people showed up with it, and according to the event organizer Bob Hannaford, one of the attendees was hospitalized as a result of coronavirus, but 41 attendees in total that have come in contact with that person have all tested positive, and he feels really, really bad about actually having the event.
Yeah, like you'd wonder, like, was it only like realized now that was like probably a bad idea?
Yeah, well, like it should be pointed out that, right. So normally he holds the event every year, and normally there's 2,000 people at it.
Yeah,
And this year there was only 250.
2,000 is a lot of swing. Obviously, he doesn't have this in his house.
I'd imagine not.
Yeah, like you'd still have to rent out a venue for that many people. I'd say 200 people is like that would make your house very, very crowded and really, really hard to clean up the next day.
And he also said that they were very COVID compliant, and they were all wearing masks and socially distancing. And like, how can you socially distance at a swingers party?
Yeah, like I thought, like a swingers party is where you shift like your neighbor's missus or mister.
Yeah, like, okay, I can understand that they were probably all wearing like gimp masks and stuff, so that's the masks covered.
Yeah, like, okay, she might have a ball in her mouth when you're fucking her up the ass. So you probably had a like 15-minute conversation before that.
They definitely weren't socially distancing.
Yeah, 100% not. Like, I just, like the whole idea of swingers, it's kind of weird.
He also had color coded wristbands to show who had COVID antibodies, who had not been tested for COVID, and who thought they did have COVID.
So he actually had a wristband for people who had. Yeah, stay away from the ones that have the wristbands that like they think they're symptomatic. Like there's people who are symptomatic here, and it's going to let other people. Like, how COVID applied are you letting people who possibly have COVID into your house?
That's brilliant.
It's like, okay, everyone who has COVID just have sex with people who also have COVID. And then everyone else is
anybody who's symptomatic, just stay over here. And anybody who's been tested and negative, you're good to go.
See, like, this is a problem with face masks. Is one of the big criticism you could have of face masks is they give people a false sense of security. So they think, oh, well, if I'm just going to go to my neighbor's house, I'll just wear a face mask and they can wear a face mask and we'll be fine. Like, but like, if you're not wearing that properly, or if it's dirty, or if you touch your face, or if you touch your face mask off multiple times, then it's very easy to contaminate or make the whole face mask pointless. And then like, I think it's like after 15 minutes, PPE gear breaks down. So if you're in there like a house for more than 50 minutes, PPE gear breaks down. So the chances of protecting yourself from COVID goes down anyway. So,
yeah, once it starts to get wet, it starts to lose effectiveness.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're in a party for 2-3 hours, surrounded by like a couple of other people, like 200 other people, like all your PPE gear, by the time like you leave that party, is useless. Like, so no, like people like. Whereas I think if people think like, oh, I have a face mask on, so everything's okay. It isn't. Like, it's a very low form of what you call of protecting yourself. Like, bare form is keeping 2 meters apart, washing your hands, not touching your face. And then, like, one of the last things, I'll wear a face mask and a shield to protect your eyes. Be another one, or wear goggles to protect your eyes.
Yeah.
I kind of find like I'm getting triggered a lot by people. And like, if I see a person, there's a few things that really pisses me off about PPE gear. Visors, when people just wear visors, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Second is visors most piss me off. Actually, it won't isn't the most thing that piss me off, but it's up there. It's number 2. Number 3 would be people wear them just like they don't have them on properly. They have their nose hanging out, and you're like, you're not wearing that properly. Put up, like, it isn't that hard. Like, I've heard of healthcare workers, like people go around people's houses not wearing them properly. And I was like what are you doing? Isn't hard. The number one thing that pisses me off, you can get these visors for your mouth. You've probably so seeing people walking around them. They look the most retarded thing I've ever seen. How are they on sale? Like, what the fuck do you think you're protecting wearing that stupid visor? You look like a fucking gimp. Like, I can kind of understand if you're working around autistic children that need to see your face, having a see-through like visor. Okay, I get it. But if you're not working around autistic children and you're just walking around a supermarket, then you shouldn't be wearing that thing. You stupid gobshite.
Tell us how you really feel, man.
Yeah, well, anyway, so swingers need to be more protective. Basically, what I'm saying. But like, you can buy like rapid tests like within 50. I know if you had 200 people, come to it's a bit like I think the rapid tests, the 15-minute ones, that you can buy yourself, cost like 200 something quid. But if you were going to a party and you just had let's say 50 people and you said, okay, the only thing you have to buy your own rapid test, so it's going to cost this. We're going to bulk buy them in, so send me the money before you get in, and that's going to be your entrance fee for this thing. So everyone sends them 200 quid, and you just do a rap. If you want to be super safe, and anyone with symptoms can get fucked.
No, anyone with symptoms can't get fucked.
yeah, that would make absolutely no sense if people who fuck the person who has COVID. Yeah, but we always cover like stories like this where like a Santa Claus was around Christmas who are infecting like mass groups of people.
Yeah, super spreader clause.
Yeah, super spreader clause, and now it's apparently 2021. Santa Claus is now swingers, ironically, who are super spreaders.
Well, I'll just say that I don't think it's any coincidence that our numbers were fairly low and fairly stable, and then Santa Claus came, and now they're gone through the fucking roof.
We're one of the worst in the world. We're like,
we are actually the worst in the world
for population.
Yeah.
Yeah. Congratulations, us.
Yeah, thanks, Santa.
And like just before Christmas, we were the best in Europe.
Yeah.
We're like the best in Europe to the worst in the world.
How does that fucking happen?
And you still have people going, oh, it's just, all of it is in the nursing homes. And you're like, what are you talking about, you strange person? You're like, all the deaths are in the nursing homes. It's actually 55 to 65 is like the highest in intensive care. And you're like, okay. Well,
did you not know you go off to a nursing home at like 48?
Yeah, it's just when you start thinking about retirement, it's when they like, okay, it's time to go. Get in, time to bring you to a home so the rest of society can forget about you. That's what all these care homes are. It's like we can't euthanize people, so we just send them to a home, drug them up to their tits and beat them, and then let them die off in an undignified manner. It's like all it is.
Not always.
Not always. There's probably one or two good ones. No, there isn't. A lot of like extreme points of views I came up with.
What happened to you, Mark, in the last week?
Apparently, I just had a lot of shit to get off my chest. This Ken sex stories has really brought out the worst in me.
Have you ever thought about therapy, Mark?
No, this podcast and this Google Assistant is my therapy, really.
I'm surprised that thing's still around.
I just argue with that now, and then when I don't like its point of view, I turn it off. So that helps. Having something that you can just turn off. You go, oh, I don't listen to you. Bye. You can't really do that like with family member or loved ones and like that.
Oh God.
Yeah, we're not going to have time for our driving test story, so we'll come back to that next week. Where the rest of our stories that we had got today, we pretty much have the show completed. I think we only need maybe one more story, and that'll do us for next week. So we'll be back next Thursday with a jam-packed show already prepared. No homework really needed.
And Mark might be as cranky.
No, I'm going to check myself into therapy I have a lot of issues that need to be resolved, obviously, and I'll be back next. More calm Zen Mark is going to be back with like a completely different point of view. Actually, we're going to introduce next week, after I get therapy, a new segment called The Wellness.
Mark's Wellness Corner.
It's just going to be called The Wellness. And yeah, it's good.
Mark's going to post one yoga pose a week.
I'm going to talk to people to be zen and be in the moment, and in return, you give me €50 a post.
That's a bargain.
It's pretty much what all the wellness people do.
It's a bargain.
Yes. Anyway, if you just want to hear Mark's new session or wellness section, tune in next week. Subscribe to make sure you get notifications. We'll be back. Talk more shite and wellness, apparently, next week.
Good luck.
Shut up and sit down.